Okay, so welcome to Beta Tribute to International Poetry Day. Our first speaker is Manuella Mavromichalis. She's an artist, writer, educator, and poet. She was a finalist at the Chippy Poetry Slam 2019-2021. She participated collaboratively in the Buffer Fringe Festival 2021 and recently completed her first novel. Manuella, the floor is yours.
This poem is called Red, and it was part of the Buffer Fringe Zone Festival that I participated with 3 of my friends and collaborators, Collectiva Inanna, and without further ado, I'll share the screen.
I was never going to be an old lady, if you know what I mean. Varicose veins, back problems, passive-aggressive love, whiplashing you into your place, layering guilt like lashings of honey butter on freshly baked cornbread at Thanksgiving. I was going to be Mother Earth sitting in lotus, my hand outstretched like Jesus, while the masses dipped their heads to receive benediction from a sage matriarch. That's the future I envisioned for myself. But I fear I don't have it in me. I seem unable to age gracefully. In fact, I think I might be aging rather disgracefully. I seem to be morphing into a loud, hairy-legged anarchist with a Frida Kahlo-esque moustache framing my lips, because who really cares about waxing? Where once I had a filter whereby I could be satisfied with just rolling my eyes and thinking, oh, what a tosser. Now I just say what I think out loud. It requires too much effort to suppress it, and I seem to have lost my ability to give a shit. I find pleasure in swearing. The words taste luscious in my mouth, full and delectable. I love whistling with my finger sitting with my legs apart, laughing out loud with all my heart, drinking beer directly from a bottle, and other such unladylike behaviour. Perhaps this is a result of decades of sitting with legs crossed, mouth stopped, being agreeable and smiling, putting everyone at ease, even after yet another inappropriate advance or comment. Perhaps I am fed up with all the shaming from society, but worst of all, my fellow women. I'm not house-proud enough, classy enough, thin enough, elegant enough, a good enough mother. Perhaps it's because I've tamed myself, because no one likes an angry woman. My passions bridled because I never wanted to be labelled hysterical. Maybe it's because I've diminished myself so that no one would feel unwelcome around me. Yes, women. We have been trained well. But I, for one, have had enough. You see, there's less of my life left for living, and I have to be selective to the type of bullshit I am willing to listen to and endure. Perhaps it's because I'm tired of being restricted and held in my place that I find bras impossible, clothes, while necessary, in this case, less is definitely more. Diets? Who the hell has time for that, or the energy to waste on it? Or the discipline? I have ADD. If I'm going to concentrate really hard on something, it's going to be to write, paint, or achieve as many orgasms as I can. So I say, one should definitely suck all the marrow out of life while there is still some marrow to suck. Screw Birkenstocks, Scholes and Crocs and other practical/hideous shoe apparel. I'm going to my grave in 5-inch red stilettos, because if I'm going to kick the arse out of life, I'm going to do it in scarlet fuck-me heels. Screw dressing age appropriately. I know what that really means. It means dressing invisibly. Are women over 40 too much of an eyesore? Oh, I'm sorry. Do my less than perky boobs not do it for you? Not get you off at night? Oh, sorry for the inconvenience, but I quit. This is my letter of resignation, effective immediately. I am no longer your sex toy. Unless I choose to be, of course. I'm no longer your wanking material by default, i.e. because I am a woman. Enough. I'm done. I quit. I resign. I am tearing up all those unspoken contracts about being a woman, being ladylike and being respectable. You can find someone else to do that job. I, for one, am determined to paint my lips red. Age appropriateness be damned, wear a skimpy bikini or better yet nothing at all, neither ashamed nor proud of my curves and rolls. I'm going to uncross my legs and woman spread because I'm allowed to take up space. Dance barefoot at a club, the dirt caking under my feet, unladylike, unsexy, unclassy, unsanitary, undone, unfucking believably fun, because the reality is, no, I'm not mellowing like a fine wine in my old age. I'm festering like a stinky blue cheese because I am done, kaput, finished from the aging gracefully bullshit club. I have defaulted, defected, deserted, and this is my final letter of resignation, effective immediately.
Πάμε στο δεύτερο ποιητή μας για το βράδυ, ο οποίος είναι ο Argyris Loizou, ο συνιδρυτής και οικοδεσπότης παρουσιαστής του ΠΕΤΑ, ο οποίος έχει υπάρξει εθνικός νικητής του Cyprus Poetry Slam για τα έτη 2019 και 20, αλλά και ο φετινός και του 2021. Argyris μου.
Thank you. So this is called Happy New Year 2121, or The Enlightenment of the Pot-Bellied Penguin, Part 2. Happy New Year 2121. Okay, calm down. It's important not only to celebrate our achievements, but also to acknowledge what it took to be here right now. So for that, I need to take you back precisely 100 years to when the big C-19 ran rampant. See, back then a vaccine would normally take 10 years to develop, and they did it in 9 months. They didn't even have neurotransmitter implants which project our thoughts to anyone or any place we want them to go. Back then, they actually had to write things down. See, the point is, and we're proof of that, given absolutely no choice, human ingenuity through adversity transcends into the marvelous. It's 2121. Gaia, the earth, now thrives. We harmed her almost to the point of her extinction, but thank Elon, hail Elon, the air now is completely harmless. Okay, it is visible and it's got more colors than the aurora borealis, but who of you has the power to gaze in awe of that masterpiece of nature and not be completely flawed or to deny its glory? We can breathe. Gaia finally breathes. Our symbiosis is complete, 100% life neutral. Okay, we still have our little idiosyncrasies and the things we can't quite nail, like the reboot of Game of Thrones. Just because you film actual clone dragons does not necessarily make a show thematically satisfying. Still, they are cool. So let's go back 100 years again, back before Project Life Force terraformed our planet to the paradise it is today, before the last of us were displaced on Greta Thunberg land, before the water wars and the great drought of 2037. My great-great-grandfather communicates to a friend on what they called back then a phone. He's alone at home, not by restriction, rather than reaction to a conscious choice to what they thought back then was a shit show of a year. It's 1.5 minutes to midnight, New Year's Eve 2020, and they're feeling Ray, you don't fucking get it. The difference is poetry is the lyrical essence of beauty itself. A Stradivarius violin played to the weeping gods. Poetry slam is much more of a visceral, orgasmic gunshot, hooking in your guts, hurling your being in this rhythmic roller coaster, leaving you gasping for breath long after its sonic ripples dissipate through your consciousness. Okay, it does lose some of its elegance, I'll give you that, but comedians, even the great ones, work all their lives for a tight 5 minutes, and I do this shit in 3, and still, ξέρω, ένσεβοντα, ναι, εντάξει, πέρασε σου, just, just feels good to unload after all we've been through this year. Εσύ, Gary, what do you do to feel better? Well, I always wanted to be a father, right? Yeah, well, I sit back and smile and imagine that my great-grandson or granddaughter, or however they are content to be identified, well, hopefully it doesn't matter. And then, anyway, they're talking about us in the future, 100 years from now. They're a leader, and they're both loved and respected and generally proud, but not just of their people, but the world around them. Maybe they even use us as an example today, at this very moment. They talk about how, despite everything to the contrary, even if it seems the world seems lost and it's going to hell, everything works out in the end, eventually, because they live through it. And besides, how else could they tell people? But it's not real, right? I know, Allah, it makes me feel better. Happy New Year, eh? Happy New Year. Next up is Christina Stylianidou. She's a Larnaca-based poet and matriarch of the Loizou family, and currently looking to publish a lifetime work of poems in Greek and in Cypriot.
Ο χρόνος που μας έφυγε και τούτος που εμπήκε με κορονοϊό συνέχισε και τη ζωή μας πήρε. Ήρθε μια μέρα τζίβρε μας κι ούλα να τραπήκαν. Εχάθην το γέγιον η χαρά κι ούλα σκορπιστήκαν. Τώρα καταλάβαμε πως μόνο η υγεία έχει αξία, φίλοι μου, σε τούτη την κοινωνία. Τόσον καιρό τα είχαμε ούλα για δεδομένα και παίζαμε ένα κομπελό, βγάλαμε τα σπασμένα. Φάμε, μακάρι να μας δώσει, νου πάνω στην κεφαλή και ούλους να μας σώσει. Δίχα καγιές, δίχα φυγιά, τόσον καιρό ζούμε, ο ένας δίχα τον άλλο δίπλα του, πολλά βαρυγκομούμε. Γυρεύκει μάνα το παιδί, ταγκώνει τη γιαγιά του, πολλά το επεθύμησε για να βρεθεί μητά του. Να δώσει θέλω πλάστης μου, του το κακό να φύγει, κι ο αέρας πιον ελεύθερα στα σπίτια μας να μείνει. Να πάμε στην εκκλησιά, όπως παγιά και πρώτα, και ρίλα πάντα ανάψουμε στου ιερού την πόρτα. Κάμε Θεέ το θαύμα σου, λυπήθου τα παιδιά σου, διώξε μακριά του το κακό, πάρ' μας μες στην ποθιά σου, και θα έρθουμε γονατιστοί κοντά σου με ένα τάμα, σου λες γυρόντες εκκλησίες που γίνηκε το θαύμα.
Συνεχίζουμε τώρα με τη ζωή Πipponidi, το βιογραφικό της, η αγαπημένη του Πέτα. Τέλος.
Chippy Spring. It was an evening such as this, when the sun landed on a chip shop counter, limbs stretching and flickering over a pile of greaseproof paper, while I was waiting for the fish to cook. And it was a time and place such as this, I felt the call of seed and wind, hovering and hooping, nibbles of sound shaping my face as I gathered salt and vinegar corners over hot, oily food. And it was right here I noticed the fitting of time and place and heart and pen, the first drop of a word, the way rhythm rested and sprung on and off my tongue, my fingers, and how angry lines found themselves sharing the touch and feel of each other. They linked arms and stared past the upturned tails of crispy fish. They held on like batter bits, a marinade of poems, flavouring greasy sheets I kept in pockets for endless years. And it is moments like these, here on the barbecue side of the world, where the sun feeds the sea, I slice up fruit and vegetables, watch them fall into dishes in swirls of texture and mood, a seasonal flight in my lips as peeled skin unfurls and finds its way into compost, where it lies in wait for the daily signs of light and dark and more offshoot words.
So next up is Ruta Dzikaraite, born in Lithuania, living in Larnaca for the past 15 years. Another fellow human being exploring the different aspects of existence and trying to figure out her place of belonging. Ruta?
Hello. So this one is called Elements. When we strip most layers of our existence, we are left with elements, such as water, most mysterious substance that cradled our beings, one that dwells inside, turning us into a walking fountains, constantly streaming within our living bodies. They circulate to the sound of the music given by the master of the orchestra, our beating heart. In the silence of my thoughts, I hear my beating heart. It talks to me. It tells me, breathe, breathe. I take the air into my lungs, and I feel my heart at ease knowing that this vital air surrounds us all, that we can fill our lungs like a swimming pool. We can operate the air so we can say words, we can sing and scream. Half of the time, the air is filled with light and half with darkness. And so this balance must be at all times sustained to keep the elements stable. Our body is a space machine with 100,000 switches. I try to comprehend the enormity of this creation, but I just can't. This knowing opens the window for expansion. I am sitting in the garden feeling as the tiniest dot in the universe. I'm soaking in the light. Light talks to me. It talks to my body. It gives messages to my skin and my eyes. And these messages then travel further, reach my very core and reflect. I'm active in this game just by sitting. Can you feel my waves? This is what will stay until my death comes. Time for the reform of the elements that were briefly held together. What a glorious, glorious transformation of the universal mandala. Thank you.
Και συνεχίζουμε με τον Γιώργο Παπακοσταντίνου, ο οποίος είναι Κύπριος συγγραφέας με έδρα τη Λευκοσία, που έχει μεγάλη αγάπη για τα τσατιστά. Είναι συνιδρυτής του εκδοτικού οίκου Αλμύρα.
Γεια σας. Ο τίτλος του κομματιού είναι «Στην Αγκαλιά του κόσμου». Αγαπημένοι μου, τραβώ κομμάτι ανθρωπιάς να γράψω λίγες σκέψεις. Όμορφες μέρες καρτερώ να ζωγραφίζουν λέξεις. Έχει καιρό που ήθελα να σου γράψω. Πάντα ελάλουν είναι χώρα. Δεν προλαβαίνω και τι να σου πω για να καταλάβεις τα πράγματα πως παντάμε. Με θυμώνεις πάρκιζα. Απλά δεν ήθελα να μείνω έσω μόνος μου να σου γράψω. Εφόμουν τόσον καιρό να σε καρτσιλατήσω όπως τότε. Πάντα ελάλουν ότι ούλος ο κόσμος έθελε μια αγκαλιά να το σφίξει, να κλάψουν και να βγάλουν τα μέσα τους οι άνθρωποι για να πνάσουν. Θυμάσαι, Χαμογέλας μου κάθε φορά που αγκάγιαζα κόσμο που το χρειάζεται. Και μόλις ένιωθα μια αγκαγιά να τους σφίγγει, εγεμόναν τα μάτια τους. Μαζί και τα δικά σου. Γράφω σου γιατί δεν δικαιούμαστε ούτε να φύγουμε από το σπίτι. Γιατί αντί να παλέψουν εναντίον της αρρώσκιας, παλεύουν εναντίον των ανθρώπων. Σκέφτου. Να είσαι ένας άνθρωπος που αγαπάς τις αγκαγιές και τους ανθρώπους και να είσαι κλειδωμένος σπίτι σου. Σκέφτομαι στη μοναξιά σου να μην έχεις πλάσμα σπλαχνικό να σε αναρρέψει. Γράφω σου γιατί έχει πολλούς που θέλουν μια αγκαγιά να γίνουν μέσα σήμερα. Και πρέπει να το ξέρεις για να έρθεις μαζί μου. Και αν για όπλα αγκαγιές, χαμόγελα για ασπίδες. Κακά τον κόσμο που πονούν, σπάζος για αλυσίδες. Να χαμογελάς πάντα σου.
Next up is Sophia Kaniklidou. She's a young Cypriot poetry slammer who in her first attempt got the final 6 of the 2021 Cyprus Poetry Slam. Sophia?
So this poem is called You Will Never Catch Me Dead Wearing Pink. Firstborn, first girl, expectations fell on my shoulders before I even took my first breath. Be that, do this. Traditional values, you see. Girls play the piano, they sing, they cook, and they clean. They wear pink. Girls are blooming flowers, ready to be plucked, ready to be withered. So you must remember to follow each word on the rule book given. And I followed them to a T. Praise came from everywhere around me. Societal pride filling my being. This is how you're accepted anyway, but everything changed when I turned 13. Somehow when womanhood makes its appearance through dripping blood, that's something that's enough for the whole world to see you differently. You see, the rule book says you should like pink, but also you should not. Pink means weak and boys don't like someone in need. Blue is strong, but not for me. At 15, I was told from a PE teacher that I run like a girl. I am told that football is not for me, that I should go to the hula hoops with the rest of the girls, but they point and they laugh because growing boobs fast somehow makes you a slut. And it's unfair how my growing makes it difficult for others to like me, how something so out of my control makes me the yellow lily between the white ones, the correct ones, how opinions about my body are shared between family and friends and strangers, how society cares more about my uterus's capabilities than mine. But what were you wearing again? How pink means hate yourself. And then we grow old. At 18, society told me I should be fat, thin, so big boobs, big hips, and tiny everything else. Rules keep being added in my book in the same rhythm as petals fall from flowers while girls in pink dresses sing, "He loves me. He loves me not." You should still not like pink. Pink means secretary, not CEO. Pink means mother, not career. Pink means immature, girly, high maintenance, slut, and God forbid you ever enjoy sex a bit too much. You are not like other girls. You are not naive. You do not like pink. Separate yourself from your sisters to be liberated. But I scroll still through catalogs and I see fluffy pink socks and rose gold phone cases and magenta handbags, and I shouldn't want them. I've built this feminine portrait of me through 18 and nights full of terror that I'll never bloom, through 15 and exclusion, through 13 and a rule book that my brother never got. So I let my friends drape a peach dress over my curves and name it supersuit. We pig all the lilies together with the sisterhood someone deemed illegal. We hold rouge in our arms and become the loud, obnoxious sluts they hate. We paint their rule book with rosewood nail polish with sparkle so bright that proves that femininity was never a weakness. After I took my first breath, I screamed until the doctors feared for my life. They still gave me a pink wristband.
Okay, we're moving on to Linda Pallien, who is an entrepreneur, an author, and a speaker, a world-class coach, specialist in personal and professional development. Linda?
This poem is entitled Life in the Window Seat, and it's in the spirit of missing flying. So here we go. Life in the window seat. I'm addicted to the window seat of an airplane. The giant tin bed soars above lands I'll never know. Man's glimpse of the world from the bird's eye view. It's almost cheating, but it feels right, thanks to the rights. Oh, for the love of flying, I go in search of pastors new, to alien lands in touristic ignorance, enduring the cruel dawn airport runs, not to mention customs invasive exams. Weeping kids, beeping gates, screaming best mates, lads on tour. Oh, fuck. Hopefully they're not on the plane I board. But all that's a distant memory after I've taken my seat in 25A. Right-winged, right between the beast's many eyes. Front and rear view of the world far behind me. Bouncy clouds, blue sea, as far as the eyes can see. Looking out for snowy mountaintops, barren lands, ooh, countryside. What's it to be? I peer down eagerly with wide eyes. Excuse me, miss, would you like a drink? Ugh, how rude. All those lovely thoughts, she broke the chain. Yes, gin, I think, and please make it quick. I plead impatiently. I must return to the window again. Was that a bird? Wait, no, seriously, I swear I saw something move in the clouds. The seatbelt light comes on as the plane rocks precariously from side to side. Well, everyone's gonna call it turbulence and not think twice. But not me, I'm on to you. My unsolved mystery lurking in the clouds. On land, the closest I'll ever get is a very foggy morning. Sweet skyfall, like Mother Nature's very own blanket. I'm engulfed in the haze of the dewy white clouds. It's like a wet kiss. Oh yeah, she's a shameless flirt. Successfully seduced, here I am again, on a plane, up in the air. From my window seat, I gaze blankly into oblivion. Mystics, gods, kingdoms, my imagination runs wild. Far out of sight from the mere mortals on the ground. It's funny, I'm sure I used to call this heaven as a child.
Next up is Maria Kouvarou. Maria Kouvarou is a PhD in musicology who writes, published poet and co-founder of the artist collective Collectiva Inina, and also co-host of Beta.
Katangelia. Καταγγέλλεται. Απάτη υψίστης ανευθυνότητας. Υποχρεωτική ευθανασία προσωπικότητας. Βίαιη ομογενοποίηση με τη μάζα. Συνοχικός εκθιασμός μετριότητας. Καταγγέλλεται. Πρόωρη αποκοπή ομφάλιου λόρου από τη μήτρα της λογικής. Ψέμα που ονομάσανε ζωή και ζωή που δεν νοείται ζωή αν δεν ποτίζεται με αίμα. Καταγγέλλεται. Μαζική εκμετάλλευση, προώθηση διαστρεβλωμένων προνομίων, κοστοβόρα θυσία διαφορετικότητας, σύνθλιψη απόκλησης, εξολόθρευση ελπίδας, γενοκτονία ονείρων. Ναι, καταγγέλλω τη γενοκτονία των ονείρων μου. Next up is Annetta Benzar. She's a co-founder of PE'Ta and founder of iPoet. Her brilliant debut book is called I Am Cyprus and features 25 stories of the migrant and refugee experience in Cyprus. Annetta?
Thank you, Maria. Just a minute. This is called We Sat in Square Rooms. We sat in square rooms with straight bars against boxy windows, repeating phrases Montag, Monday, Dienstag, Tuesday, Mittwoch, Wednesday, Donnerstag, Thursday, Freitag, Friday, Samstag, Saturday, Sonntag, Sunday. Books at angles, across desks, touching corners, pens vertical, parallel desks, elbow to elbow, equating gathered obedience to learning. From the front of the class, Frau would repeat, think outside the box, get creative, build, break. Inside classrooms, we'd say yes, repeating yes, but then came learning. Because, they say, you need to stay within these walls of language. Sit here, they'd say, within our agendas. These words, they'd say, are not your own. These are our histories, our rules. You bend or break within our boxes, our regulations, straight lines and borders. Live, they'd say, inside our words. And you will, they'd say, learn. Yes, we'd say, stacking one word with another, horizontally, vertically, like boxes. Climbing into one to leap into the other. Out of the box, we thought. This is it, we thought. A leap of faith that we were forming, reforming orders and patterns, opposites, contrasts, uncomfortable unions to stack and be stacked behind, between more boxes. Because what does it mean to stand outside the categories of language? And then, one day, when in class we could not find the word for girl in German, we thought creatively, thought outside the box, writing nicht Junge, not a boy, stacking gender as if it was stackable. We thought we were being creative. How far could we go? Not a boy? Not quite a boy. Not very much like a boy. Not at all. They called it learning, repeat, learning, repeat, forgetting, because that is what we do now, sitting in the shatters of the windows, from the frames, from the boxy rooms and square buildings, straight roads away from all those vertical, horizontal buildings and cities where everything but us was normal. They were all straight-edged, angled with clear directions. Now our shattered selves sit locked up in their madhouses. We repeat, recite, relearn, repeat after us. Forget your boys.
Next is Chandi Chopra. Based in the UK, is a human rights campaigner and anti-war activist. She traveled to the refugee camps of Palestine, Lebanon, and Calais to detail human rights abuses with a view to assisting refugees and asylum seekers. Chandi?
This piece is called 70 Years. You came to my land in 1948 and invented your own state. Armed with your troops, a million of us cleansed, oppressed by greed and hate. Hate when my water is rationed and yours flows free, based not on my human right, but my ethnicity. Hate when my sister gives birth at your illegal checkpoint because of the scarf that she wore on her head. Because she forgot the ID card that you had assigned her, who said apartheid was dead. The years went on and no one spoke, and then you demolished my village. You stole our homes, you took our land through ethnic cleanse and pillage. Your settlements have tools and pools and schools before your Messiah has risen. You're armed with arms and walls and guards, condemned us to an open-air prison. 400 of our children imprisoned in your illegal child-only prison. Whilst you preach terrorism, what about Zionism? When I state the facts, they accuse me of anti-Semitism. Then you came for my family, you killed my husband and went on to slaughter my child. I tried to resist with my flag in my hand, yet I was the one reviled. Shatila, Casled, Protective Edge were the names of your operations. We were unarmed civilians, 10,000 dead, a life of humiliation. Today there stand checkpoints, military law, and Jewish-only roads. A 26-foot-high apartheid wall snakes through my land, where my olive trees would grow, where my ancestry no longer shows. Your night raids ongoing upon my children using cable ties and blindfolds. I wish the world could see through my eyes. I wish the world could know. And although we've been granted the right of return through international law, for 70 years you've deprived my right where my ancestors were once born. One of the most powerful militaries in the world, you're targeting an unarmed population. We have no army. You took our men, imprisoned them 10 years for their freedom demonstrations against your occupation. We have no guns, no drones, no bombs, nothing which we can threaten. You have your tear gas, your tanks, your guns, your internationally banned weapons. 4 years ago, you bombed my people whilst they were trapped on a strip of land. 2,500 slaughtered from your weapons, the blood of 600 children on your hands. You weren't punished for these crimes against humanity. Your offence, you said, was self-defence, but 600 children though, that's insanity. It's a travesty that the world looked on as you went on to bomb 4 boys playing football on a beach. Or how about that time you cremated that toddler whilst he was in his cot asleep? Poor little Ali, may his soul rest in peace. The media, the propagandists, the benefactors of our suffering won't learn our story. Only ignorance will they preach. But luckily, this is poetry. These are facts. This is freedom of speech. Before you colonized, we lived together. Our religions, we lived in peace. Yet piece by piece, you stole my land. And piece by piece, you sold your brand to those who would benefit, even those in politics. As for killing my people, you were branded the hero and I was the terrorist. For decades, you alleged you wanted peace and we cried for a solution. Yet all the governments continued to arm you in the face of UN resolutions. We don't want retribution. We want our freedom. If not, then a revolution. How much longer must we suffer whilst our cries are portrayed as violence? The hypocrisy of fake peacemakers, the loud rhetoric of their silence. 70 years have passed. My hands are tired. My face, she has new lines. My name is Gaza. My name is West Bank. My name is Palestine.
Next is Helen Barrett. Living in the UK after 7 years in her beloved Cyprus. She writes short fiction, poetry, flash fiction, and articles which have been published in both countries. She is half Welsh, half Cypriot, hence her love of singing and dancing. And we could listen to her talk all day long. Helen?
2 short poems. Abiding by the Rules is my first one. From my upstairs window, I see 9 backyards. I can almost touch their high grey walls. Old 2 up, 2 downers, each have small outbuildings out back. I imagine all the hardy folk over the years living in close proximity and abiding by all the rules. Then I see a man at his back door, smoking. What are you staring at, eh? He bellows across at me. Startled, I blush and step back. He gives a throaty laugh. Here's something to stare at, girl. Removing his coat, he displays his nakedness. He's breaking all the rules. The second one, don't delay. Along the way, I planted dreams, but those, along with other schemes, got trodden beneath feet of clay. I hope they'd bloom another day. Lennon said, life got in the way, act now before you fade away. but procrastination or maybe fear can hold a life to ransom dear. Like hide and seek, hope played a game, calling me to task by name. But I made excuses, borrowed time, and created more high hills to climb. No good can come of blaming others, sisters, brothers, children, mothers. Life is what you make it, right? A roller coaster, hold on tight. Dreams I created, well, some came true. And now I'm nearly 72. I tell you, my friends, I've made my choice. And I have finally found my voice.
Paula Savvides is a Larnaca-based writer who is a part of the Barrett family. She's an absolutely incredible. She was not here tonight, but she sent us her video, and this is it.
Hi, my name is Paula Savvides. This poem is called Listen. Listen. I'm trying to explain to be heard, spinning words, weaving sounds, like trailing jasmine shoots across a bamboo frame, pulling in bits of sentences, tying them together, cutting off loose ends, tasting the alphabet to see which letter fits better. Dull sounds round and hollow, loud shouty words, syllables banging a drum, confident expressions telling the world, I'm here. Sometimes I prefer slinky. Something spicy slithering against my tongue, holding back. Open your eyes, see meek and unwilling, not teasing. Little flurries of melody waiting to get out and ping off walls. Clustering syllables meshing to compose a song. I string the words together to mimic the notes in my head, like pasta shapes strung on a line. Too clunky and the twine will snap, cut my tongue. Wispy notes, read too loud, just crumble and tear, leaving a chalky residue on my lips, choking me in so much ash, the remains of my poem after I fried it. All semblance of song incinerated so that no one hears my voice at all. But just as the sun will rise every day, so will I continue trying, squeezing music from syllables, spinning my words. Do you understand?
Let me introduce you, my friends. Okay. Michael-Angelos, he writes about and for enjoyment and enlightenment. Sometimes Michelangelo also speaks. Most of the time, Michelangelo sulks. Go for it, my feeling.
All right. Since I was absent in writing the last two sessions, which were about, what was it about? Oh yeah, it was about love and women. So I thought I'd do a recap and include everything in this lately written poem. Argyris told me, at least he told me, that we should be, I don't know, we should be speaking about the poem that is dear, the best poem that we've ever written, the one that is dear to our heart. And I'm thinking that that work which is dear to my heart is the one that I've never written yet. But here it is. This is the last one I've written. And as I said, it's about love, women, and poetry. And it is called Stomp, Romp. You bitch. You goddamn bitch. Pluck my switch, preachy witch, my mind in a ditch, imploring you, inamorata all'arrabbiata, yet all around pseudo-profound bitch. Loathsome may be the path of your statutory lust, barefooted and regale yourself, if you must, with tales that wag the donkey, some kind of monkey, cajoling for sensual murder, sexual blunder, spiritual plunder. I wonder why this thing is marring me, is putting me down, pelting me with shit which drive me to a frown. Cumbersome is your weight, and its freight carries on long and deep into our souls. I shall not command you with words designed to strike the eye with garments loomed by all. Nor have I duty to square land masses, convince bipedal asses to kneel and kiss your hand. There is this taste of ever bitterness on each touch, each handshake, hand job, every exchange is just too much. There and I say, we could have been better friends. We could have acted out one slideshow fantasy after the other, then another, until we couldn't truly make male from female, mine from other. Perhaps it would have been one single beam me in, excitatory to the extraordinary, a glorious illumination, a single abbreviation from the standardized, bastardized, whole high tide and green grass scene. Perhaps that would have been is simply a matter completely different to a downright size queen. There was, of course, another time, a colloquial fame of mind, now irrevocably and inconsolably lost, dead to its host, where the all-seeing I absolutely and positively cherished and loved you. There was, I hear it again, and it could, as it would be naturally, post hoc sound weary and dreadful and clanky and swanky and frail. There was, it's been called out for being what it simply is. There was sultry thoughts brushed by the riffraff touch of a summer breeze, curtain behind which the black dog of misery, fiendish and obscene lurks, hides in words of false fantasy. Perennially on guard, I fought. I yielded. Whatever I did, I lost. You scream and punch with fists made out of smoked hash, laurel and wormwood. Open up, let it in. The way I see it is like a picture film, whose overall ethos would never cut it as a real agent creating mythos. So scream, little cream catcher, you've got a dream to sell. The poignant, the colorful, the energetic speed up the peaks of evermore. Furthermore, the promises of unabashed perfection kept alive forevermore. I could have asked the thinker, the cynic, the machinist, which dissects brain after brain, slashing through tissue, rewiring, switching ports, and they would say, well, it's just an edifice. And look here, what have we got? A world mechanical, void of emotion and intellect, held together by unshakable atomic knots. And I would bow down in disappointment, for it was not anyone's words, but yours, that I would, without thinking, on a heartbeat, have unrelentingly assault and conquer my heart, my soul, my being, my wing nutsack, droopily like the gaping maw of sustenance, instant gratification, the oblation of everything to the name, the identification with that state of particular consciousness, conquering and surrendering, being and becoming, desiring while slouching out west of Eden, wanting to be, to become, above everything and all, God. The way I write it, Lord, we are going to end up old, working up lost fragments into coherency, beating our meat, somebody else's meat, with a walking stick, making so much sense as no sense at all. My darling, my sweet, my dove, I'm crying, I'm dying of.
And we're moving on to James McKee. He's a professor of English and co-founder of PE'Ta. He's also a co-collaborator for a new book, an anthology exhibiting the poetry and poets of Larnaca. He has also just passed his 11+ in Greek.
Ευχαριστώ, Maria. So, the poem is called Petrofani. It's a fragment of a longer poem. I'm just reading the first couple of stanzas. So, Petrofani. It was the name itself appealed to me. Petrofani, old rock, an entropy, an abandoned village, houses left to time, a place to muse on the infinite sublime slave whisper, one day all this too shall pass. Memento mori, The failure to surpass the bounds of chance, biology and age, momentarily to glimpse the metal of the cage that holds us all, just a short drive away from home. And, to wax a bit more truthful, it helped us to resist the siren pull of Sunday afternoon cartoons and snacks. We buckled the boys securely in the back of the Qashqai, programmed the GPS, chatted about work, deadlines and our stress from fatherhood, economic crisis, Donald Trump, Syrian war and ISIS, our wives, our friends, our poetry and books as yet unwritten. Told the kids to look outside as we approached Athienul, took a right at the factory, then cut through onto a dirt track. The car rocked and bounced, enough to excite the children, who announced a mutual and urgent need to piss. The farmer had fertilized the fields. This, my urinating son declared, was yuck. And indeed, as a whirlwind blew the muck up our noses, it was hard to disagree. The fields were barren, the earth a dried up plea for rain. A tractor, all peeling paint and rust, clanked on the plain, coating us all in dust. Ahead was a shuttered Turkish graveyard with signs announcing, "Entry here is barred." Were crows bouncing on dry earth between the dead Macbeth's portents for what would lie ahead, or just plain birds, heads cocked at our approach, one eye still searching for beetle, grain or roach, their grey hoods giving them the air of monks? Brown lizards scuttled swiftly up pine trunks while a circadian chorus chirred, their sense of reckonings long since deferred. The gravestones lay at angles, names and dates mostly erased by time or, well, no, not fate, but human agency, human disconnect, were legible in unashamed neglect of stones planted to say, "Here was a man." We stood and gazed, while the bored boys began a stick sword, stick gun, stick horse, stick pen game among the rotting hay bales, which became spaceships, superhero castles, villains' lairs, changing with a word from horses into chairs, from which, pew, 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 they bravely fought Darth Vader's minions, Lord Business and his cops, battled with shuriken, karate chops, raising vibranium shields to Dalek blasts. As the tractor turned to make another pass, dads insisted on an unwelcome truce, bribing the combatants with chocks and juice to abandon their war. Petrofani loomed. Drunks scatter on the slopes above the tombs, old roofs half caved in, broken stones the jaws of some B-movie monster, open to gnaw on human flesh. It had been built on rock risen from the plain, proof against the shock of earthquake, flood and famine, although not the wind that, howling through its streets, begot its second name in Turkish, Esendar, the windy mountain. A rust-rattled car drove past us and we crossed the stony track, my son already letting out a quack of kid joy at the unexpected sight of a spavined horse waiting for a night in its tiny yard. Dried mud spattered its tired mane, tail ungroomed and haggard. I showed them how to offer it food, pulled from the hard ground, then carefully strewed across the palm, flat for black lips to find and mumble to the molars for their grind. "Oh, and watch the teeth," I warned, though there seemed scarce reason to be scared of a beast deemed out to pasture, ready for the dog food bolt, weak in the knees, so unlikely to revolt that its patch stood virtually unbarred. Little else moved. The earth was full of scars baked in from the rainy season, a pain for cracked hooves tripping through a bare domain. Cats picked their way with malice aforethought, envisioning bird meat, their muscles taut with readiness to pounce. A pigeon, perched cooking on a metal roof, was the first to lose her nerve. Her lone almighty clap spurred the flock to fly. The resulting flap echoed flatly from mud walls and rusting tin. Flies drank tears, clustered on the horse's skin. Goat bells tinkled faintly. The smell of dung was everywhere. My boy grabbed a stick and swung it aimlessly.
Daniel Plunkett lives in the Lycabos and was born only 13.8 billion years ago in the hydrogen cloud. He is found in the Milky Way in the stardust of a mother's sun until 4.5 billion years ago he was released into the body. Daniel.
Hello, that's me. This is called How You Made Me Ache. How you made me ache. I curled, spiral seeding. You came in the ending, in the first light. And in death, I awoke. In birth, I broke. And in that kiss, in that daybreak, how you made me ache. It was outside the cell, before the first breath, before sleeping. You looked in me, and I was opened. When sound was silence, before I knew my name, you called me softly, and the flame awoke. Hydrogen, helium igniting, burning, breaking, aching. Our cells joined in horizon, dissolving day into night, a floating oasis rising, and from my eyes came raindrops calling, feeding the gestation of this new birth. And in this garden, you let me play, named colors, named moments, named my body made from clay, named the one that watches, and I saw you again from my cell of blood and bones, beautiful as you held me close, as you let me go. Inside of home, in the light receding, in the kiss, then sealing. You woke me into this dream. You held me cased in body, touched my fingers unfolding. You smiled into my eyes, a universe unfurling. And in your endless love, you left me falling, and how you made me ache, how you made me ache.
Η Όλγα έχει εκδώσει 4 παιδικά βιβλία και ένα βιβλίο με ποίηματα. Της αρέσει η έκφραση, έτσι δοκιμάζει τον εαυτό της στην ποίηση και σε θεατρικά έργα. Θεωρεί τη συγγραφή μια εσωτερική επικοινωνία μεταξύ συγγραφέα και αναγνώστη και αυτό την οθεί να δημιουργεί. Όλγα μου.
Ελεώνας, μακάρι να μπορούσα να σου τα πω όλα, όσα νιώθω, όσα έχουν σημασία, όλα τα μικρά, όλα τα σήματα και άχρηστα που κουβαλώ μέσα μου και γύρω μου. Να σου πω για τις επιτυχίες μου, για εκείνα που με πονάνε, αυτά που με κρατάνε ξύπνια τα βράδια. Να σου πω για τα όνειρά μου, για τους πόθους και τις επιθυμίες μου, για όλες εκείνες τις διαδικασίες που περνώ κάθε φορά που έχω να κάνω κάτι νέο ή κάτι παλιό και το σώμα μου δρά και αντιδρά. Είναι η αλήθεια μου, όπως λέω. Μικροί κραδασμοί, ταχυπαλμίες, τρέμουλο, ανατριχύλες, πάγωμα, σκληρότητα, ανεμελιά. Όλα αυτά που περνά το σώμα μου κάθε στιγμή που είναι ζωντανό. Όχι μόνο τις στιγμές που είναι απλά ζωντανό, αλλά και τις φορές που νιώθει ζωντανό. Εκείνες τις στιγμές που νιώθει ένα με την ύπαρξη και με τη γη και τα αστέρια. Εκείνες τις στιγμές που ο παλμός του σύμπαντος βρίσκεται στις φλέβες μου όταν κοιτάω μέσα στα μάτια σου. Μακάρι να μπορούσα να σου τα πω όλα. Τότε θα ήμουν σίγουρη ότι με γνωρίζεις, ότι ακούς κάθε λέξη και κάθε σύμβολο και κάθε τόνο του ήχου που βγαίνει από το κέντρο μου. Ξέρω πως αυτό δεν είναι δυνατόν. Για να μπορούσα να το κάνω, Θα έπρεπε να μιλάω για χρόνια. Θα έπρεπε να εφεύρω νέες λέξεις, μιας και οι περισσότερες είναι κορεσμένες. Και το πιο δύσκολο θα ήταν να βρω τις λέξεις που αγγίζουν το δικό σου σώμα, εκείνες που κάνουν νόημα στο δικό σου μυαλό. Και αυτό δεν είναι απλά δύσκολο, είναι αδύνατον. Θα έπρεπε να μου μιλάς για χρόνια, να με μάθεις όσα δεν ξέρω για σένα, να με κάνεις να κατανοήσω λέξεις που δεν κάνουν συνειρμού στο κεφάλι μου. Μακάρι να μπορούσαμε να τα πούμε όλα. Μα στέκομαι εδώ σιωπηλή και σε κοιτάω. Αφήνω τον άνεμο να μας αγκαλιάσει. Αυτόν τον νιώθουμε και οι δυο. Ας σηκώσουμε τα χέρια ψηλά και ας τα αφήσουμε να ανθίσουν. Ας γεμίσουν τα ροζιασμένα χέρια μας καρπούς. Ας γίνουν ρίζες στα πόδια μας μέσα στη γη. Να χωθούμε στο χώμα. Και εκεί κάτω κρυφά θα αγγίξω το πόδι μου στο δικό σου. Θα ενώσω τις ρίζες μου με τις δικές σου για να τρεφόμαστε μαζί από το νερό. Και τα χρόνια θα περνάνε και οι αιώνες θα περνάνε. Θα πεθαίνουμε και θα αναγεννιόμαστε μέσα από τις ρίζες μας, όπως κάνουν οι γέρικες ελιές. Το κέντρο μας θα γίνεται κούφιο και νέα ζωή θα γεννιέται στην επιφάνειά μας. Θα ανθίζει και θα χαίρεται και εγώ ακόμα θα ελπίζω να γίνω ένα μαζί σου. Να ενωθούμε κάτω από τον καυτό ήλιο, να βιώσουμε τον ιερό γάμο που λένε οι γραφές, να σταματήσουμε να είμαστε όντα και να γίνουμε ουσία, να βρούμε αυτό για το οποίο είμαστε προορισμένοι, το Άγιο Φως της αλήθειας. Ακόμα είμαι εδώ και ελπίζω. Ελπίζω πως την επόμενη φορά οι ρίζες μου θα τρυπώσουν στο κενό σου και θα θύσω στην αγκαλιά σου. Αυτό μπορεί να με παγιδεύσει, να με κάνει να πάψω να αναγεννιέμαι, αλλά δεν με πειράζει. Θα μείνω αιώνια παγιδευμένη στην ύπαρξή σου.
And from one lovely lady to another, and I hope I pronounced the surname right, Kez Kadirsoy. Is it Kadirsoy? Yeah? Okay. Kez Kadirsoy.
Yes, it is.
Great. Kez Kadirsoy. She was born near Larnaca, raised in the UK, and she is now living in the north part of Nicosia for the past 4 years. She has written occasionally since the age of 11 and has an unending love for the spoken word. Kezi?
Okay, my poem is called Borders. In his sober moments, his father was that insipid moron, and his mother didn't fare much better. He used to jest, "Why don't you adopt me?" And I would say, "Oh, come on, you know they love you really." But I knew he didn't believe it for a second. Neither did I, and he knew that, I reckon. He would call at all hours of the night to say there had been another fucking fight in that flat, which was not small, but was like a hole. I would say, "You have to learn to control your anger." It was during one of those nights that I once again, at an ungodly hour, put my coat over my nightgown, called Ahmed the minicab driver, and pressed the buzzer over and over until they let me in, although God knows what they expected me to do about it all, or why they thought my presence could make any difference. I do not know. This time the casualty was his mother's cabinet that was glass. I can't say I sympathized, as she really did keep too much furniture that she always fucking buys. All that porcelain, which he'd said she cared for more than him. And the other casualty, I hate to say, was his father's nose, all bloody. And of course, they'd yelled at him to just leave this house immediately. God knows, not for the first time. "Can't he stay with you a while?" his mother asked me, as if he had not been in the room at all. And I saw him cast her daggers. I said in the most diplomatic of manners. Maybe you shouldn't drink any more of that, eh? Pointing with my eyes to the bottle of bells he cradled, but hell, he did not hear me or see me either. His eyes only on his father, who raged like wildfire. This is the best way I can describe him. Hand and tissue on his nose, and his big flabby body shaking in pajamas. I want you to leave this house for good, understand? He said over and over. And do you know what I saw in all this fury? I saw something that will stay with me forever. A look that said, I'm lonely, Father. It should have been said in words, as it was not heard. And then he turned to me and clamored, do you know that my father is the bravest man ever? I mean it, fat cheeks over there. They chased him off. They chased after him for 2 whole hours. Yeah, pursued him, those fascist fuckers, and he beat them, didn't you, Babish? Those fucking fascists. Daddy crossed the border on his motor like James Bond, you know, Daddy Bond. And with that, he lunged forward to kiss his father's meaty cheeks, but was pushed with such fury that he kissed the floor only. Such fury, you'd think his enemy number 1 was no damn fascist, but his son. I do wonder sometimes, what if he had said instead, son, God bless for being proud of me, son, and say that he cares. But he said nothing of the sort. And when his son had left for good after a time, the thought of pursuing him did not cross even the borders of his sedated mind.
Konstantia Manoli, who is a British-born Cypriot author and illustrator. She lives amid almonds and olive trees with her family and pets. Her debut picture book will be available in the spring-summer 2022.
The turtle washed up on Mackenzie Beach last night. Domed shell intact, the flat and flopped out insides shrunken and sinking into the sand. They'll say it's because of climate change or army exercises or fishing, or maybe it's a COVID thing. They'll say that someone somewhere did something that killed her. I wonder if she just got tired, like the rest of us. Just lay down and gave the fuck up. Last thoughts being, let them find me here. Let them do what they want with my body. I'm done with it. The sand has already started sloughing off the old skin. Birds peck at sticky red bits, predators prowl, feeding off flesh. Nature reclaims what she put into this life, without hesitation, without ceremony. But the shell, that patchwork home, impenetrable, impervious, impossible, she rises up out of the sand, a vault of resilience. She is always resilient. Her carapace, her last and lasting demonstration of defiance and love, will remain stitched together. A story quilt sewn by women, each piece bound for memory and legacy, for pastimes and passing the times, each sutra a testament of a life well lived. They'll say her name to tell her story, but however much they try to wear it with sorrow and grief, however they bundle it with pity and suffering, the mouthing of it forces a smile. Careta, careta. It will always be more of a tap dance than a death. It will always be a celebratory refrain of all she is. She will always be the story she tells on her return, emptied of herself for others to thrive. A woman's work is unmistakable.
Last but not least, Andonis Georgiou, He's a poet, he's a writer, and yes, he's incredible. So over to you, Andonis.
Εκ των έσω, βρήκα μια κολλά άδεια και είπα να διάσω να την γεμίσω. Μα να γράφω δεν με παίρνει βράδια, γι' αυτό με λέξεις θα τα ζωγραφίσω. Η φλόγα φουντώνει, ο χρόνος παγώνει, η αλήθεια κοστίζει και στα αλήθεια λυτρώνει. Το ποτήρι ξέχυλο, το κρασί μου νερωμένο και μια κουταλιά εγωισμού, μήδω να με κρατά πνιγμένο. Ίος μες στο χειμώνα, καλοκαίρι που με καίει, τρέχω να γεμίσω το ρημάδι μου, η μοίρα μη με κλαίει. Κάτι με βαραίνει μέρες, το κουβαλάω μήνες. Έχω φόρους να με κλέβουν και κυβερνητικές κομπίνες, πετρελαία, οικόπεδα και βουκαΐνες. Μπήκες, τι βλέπουν οι μεγάλοι, τι είναι αυτά που ακούν οι έφηβοι, ποια στράτα θα μας σώσει, ποιον έχουν Θεό οι έντιμοι. Πόσο κοστίζει η αγάπη, πόσο κρατάνε οι ευχές, μια θάλασσα έχω ανάγκη κι αυτός να ακούει τις διάπασών μου προσευχές. Στις καλές μου τις γράφω, στις κακές μου τις σκίζω, στις σκέψεις να μου φύγουν άνθρωποι, ματώνω και δακρύζω. Και τότε, ποια δάχτυλα ιατρεύουν την πληγή, ποια μάτια κοιτάν την ομορφιά, μπαλάτισε μια θάλασσα ρηχή, χτίζω και γκρεμίζω γέφυρες, ταξιδιάρα μου ψυχή, να σε έχω δίπλα μου, ετούτη τη βραδιά.
Να πω ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ όλους που μοιράστηκαν μαζί μας τις λέξεις, τις σκέψεις, την αλήθεια τους και στο επανειδήν, στο επόμενο Πέτα.
I'll stay outside and drink my wine, wash away these memories. It's late now, but I don't want to close my eyes, 'cause I'm still seeing you. Are you seeing me too? Do you look the other way to find something new? Should I do it too? Look to the new moon,